police helicopter cover-ups for October 7th. So at this point in time, I'm making this on October 31st, and there were certain things that I wasn't aware of on the 7th. So some of the times when he passes through the copter pocket, I didn't notice that they were doing cover-up turns. And there's also one point that I still haven't figured out yet, and that is the police helicopter doing turns on my roof. So I might figure it out as I continue doing these reviews. But one incident of a personal interaction was the UN copter cover-up. One time I said something and they didn't like it, and this was after they were being audited, and it might have been one of the red, white, blue ones or some oddly painted black UN copter, but it was a UN copter model-wise. Came out at me from basically like Geronimo Alicia, but slightly farther up Geronimo towards Geronimo Cordillera, and it basically came directly over the two-story house across the street. And I had been in the backyard, but I had heard it coming, so I jumped the wall and was outside on the street waiting for it, and I was going to be underneath it. So then he turned left 90 degrees and went down my street waving the tail. And so that is one of the instances I just thought of that has to do with the 90 degree, but that was the UN copter. So I don't know what event the police helicopter is covering up with the left 90 degree turn, but there's some kind of personal interaction that has to do with the left turn, because there's a turn on this day, and there are also other turns that I'm starting to notice because I'm only starting to review my copter videos now. So on the 7th at 10:28 a.m., the police helicopter was behind the two-story house across the street, so he approaches from there because he's hidden, so basically on a diagonal from Geronimo Alicia. And then, so I don't know where he came from, but that's where I found him. And so then he continued slowly out to Geronimo Cordillera and did left power circles at Geronimo Cordillera. And so there have been many incidences where he's done power circles at Geronimo Cordillera, and there was one where he used the intercom and it wasn't posted online. And there were instances when I would run down there and he would leave, and then I would come back and he would come back. And there was also another one where they hovered the helicopter down there trying to lead me out so that I would run down there, and then they would find the suspicious person. And then so that he was doing the power circles. They began at 10:30, 2 minutes after I saw him. And then at 10:34, since my phone is tapped and they're sitting there watching me trying to make a video of him, they told him to descend. So he just descended below the house line. And there are a whole lot of events like that with the personal interaction. I think it's crazy. Some of the stuff with the proof is crazy, because I thought like the live feed and the context of the situation would be used, but it's not. So everything's taken out of context. If anyone saw it in context or heard the live feed coupled with the events that are recorded, there wouldn't be any debate. And then so at 3:45 p.m. the police copter came over 24092 and then went down Oliveira behind my house. So yeah, so that's basically like the 11 o'clock line, except it's backwards. And they always fly over 24092. That's the original goal. The reason why there's a surveillance circle is because they kept trying to get back to 24092, because that was a house with fake news, and I think people were auditing that first because of the harassment video with the low circles. And then that's when he started doing the straight dart, because he ran away one night when I was explaining it. So that was basically one of the original hotspots. So they fly the 11:30 line, the 11 o'clock line over my house, and usually over 24092 also. So he came down from over 24092 and flew down Oliveira behind my house, because sometimes it varies. And then he went out into the park. And that's also now convenient for the October 16th event, but they would make a line over any event anywhere and say, oh, well, this is his third split route of the neighborhood, and then they would cross over it, and then that enables them to say that, oh, well, he can do power circles for 45 minutes there because that's on his split route, don't you know? And so it's all covered up. So he did a okay, and then at 3:47, right after that, he did a left tilt So he waved and turned. That's okay. So he came over 24092, then he went down Olivera, and then he waved and he turned and went out over the two-story house. So I was getting to the point. That's convenient because that's an earlier event where he crossed near the October 16th event, but it was beforehand, so they can say, oh, that's a regularity. But I think they already submitted fabricated evidence of a Cessna for the October 16th event. So then he was on a left tilt, and he was moving right, so it was contradictory. And I think that's to cover up for his straight dart things, because I'm looking at the October 31st one, and there are events like that today. So then he went and descended and tried to sell the descent, and I only noticed this now. I didn't notice when I was recording it, because I wasn't aware that they were using the hill as an excuse. It's not really a hill either. So he descended behind the two-story house, and then he went and did power circles at Geronimo Montilla intersection. And then at 355, he went, if you're looking across the street, left to right in the Copter pocket. And then at 7:37 p.m., he approached from behind the two-story house again from Geronimo and Alicia intersection, and he did a left turn behind the two-story house, and then he went down and he crossed over 24092. So at this time I wasn't aware either, but they're trying to sell some kind of concept, like the two-story house and the tree next to it are tall, so they're landmarks, therefore they need to turn. And to say that, oh, possibly, well, the military copter turned because there's this hill, but there's also these trees, so some people turn because of the tree, some turn because of the hill. And there's even, oh, now I think I know, there's a UN copter that did a U-turn the other day, and I thought he was responding to me because of my phone, which is a high probability when I deleted a video so that I could record him, but it's also a possibility that he was trying to sell the hill in the park, say that, oh, well, I had to turn and get away from that to cover up for the military copter. And so once he did the left turn behind the two-story house, he went and crossed over 24092, the transformer firehouse, and he slowly went up on a angle towards James Crystal's house and Cornell. And then that was at 7:38. And then at 7:42, he was slowly sneaking down Olivera Street behind me. And then he came out on my roof, and then he did a left 90 degree right away, and then went and did some power circles out behind me, and then went down El Dorado Park. So those power circles were out over Olivera, El Dorado Park. And then at 8:02, he returned again from Geronimo and Alicia intersection, and he had changed his lights. He didn't have any running lights, and he had just red flashers on. And he came up El Dorado Park. So I guess he must have been a left in the Copter pocket, and then shot into El Dorado Park. And then at 8:06, I was on my roof. Yeah, this is the park event. And then so I was on my roof and looking out the back, and then he stalled, and then he turned right, and then came, because he was coming towards me, and I was hiding behind the chimney. And then he went above 24172 and made a slight left, and then he went right and went towards Geronimo and Cordillera. So he did like odd turns, and that's that point again. I'm not sure what the sharp turns are on my roof yet. And then he went and did power circles at Geronimo Montilla. So he headed out towards Geronimo Cordillera and then went to Geronimo Montilla. And also that was possibly just to create larger turns, so the variable of doing the tail wave, maybe it was highly dramatic, I'm not sure. Because on the 31st now, they're starting to do stuff on smaller gradients. Like they're trying to do the military copter turn cover-ups with a smaller degree, like a 10 degree or 15 degree. Same with the ascensions. And then so at 8:11, I saw him coming from going towards Geronimo and Alicia, and going left to right in the Copter pocket. And so I wasn't aware that they do turns or certain things at this point in time, so he might have done something to cover up. And then at 8:13, I saw him crossing up and going up the park, so towards the school.